they didn't like it, obviously, but after some time we kind of got through it, and it even got to a point that I also, as a leader, I also had to learn how to say sorry. I had to learn how to say you're right, even when in my head I was like, you're absolutely wrong. You know what I'm saying? But I had to learn how to make peace in some instances, because I just had to also learn the fact that I will not always be right, because I'm a human being, and this is a learning process for all of us, you know. So I don't know, it's a lot of lessons that normally they won't teach you this in class, but dealing with people, it's a skill that you could learn and you could take.
So welcome to Hart Lovings. Today we have our first, or I can say second ever guest, Favour Uche Ojika.
Ooh, look at you.
Oh, I got it right this time.
Yes, you did.
So we originally did a first recording, but it didn't really turn out as we had hoped. So we are redoing a second interview with Favour.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, I will post up the first recording or interview, for lack of a better word. You just have to bear with all the noise disruption that was going on. But the message in itself, it's extremely powerful, and I absolutely loved it. And I'm super thankful that Favour could come and join us again.
I'm happy to be here. Anything for you, Tony, even though you're a thorn on my flesh.
Oh, I'm amazing.
Well,
So just to wrap up the series again, one of the reasons why I wanted to start the student series is because, you know, on social media or like YouTube or even like all the TV series, I don't know, TVs in general, you always see like all these like really famous people sharing their stories, and I mean, they're great, they're motivational, but you don't really see like the everyday regular person, you know, going through their hardship. So the purpose of this show is that I wanted to let people know that, you know, the regular person can do great things, that they have their stories, that everyone has their stories, and everyone has lessons to share with everyone. And, you know, from my knowledge of you, Favour, like just everything that you've done so far, it's inspired me so much.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so much, Favour.
Okay, and I'll take that as a compliment, but yeah, let's just carry on, keep going.
You're loving this.
That's why it's Hart Lovings, right?
Yes.
There we go.
You know, spread love to the world, and that is one of my goals, is to teach people how to really love their life, how to get back on their feet and to keep going again. And a few things that I love about you, Favour, is that, you know, you are like just gritty as hell. Like, by all means, you're one of the most gritty students that I know of. And if you don't know Favour, if you just a little bit about her, like is currently the vice president for our St. Cloud chapter for the National Society of Black Engineers. She's been the president of the Nigerian Student Organization, and
hello.
Yes. And she literally saved the dying organization and rebuilt everything from the ground up. She is going to graduate with her master's soon. Please remind me what it is.
Information assurance and cybersecurity. Can't wait, honestly. That's like the long version for computer information systems. So
right. So so close. And I mean, like, I've known Favour for a number of years, and she's just been so involved on campus.
Thank you.
And we will figure out, and we will dive more into her story as we go more into the interview.
Sure.
And I know during our last interview, we talked a lot about your journey through NSO, Nigerian Student Organization.
Yes.
And I just absolutely love the story. I just can't get enough of it. And if you're willing to share with the audience once more about your journey through through NSO.
NSO, first of all, thank you for that very, I don't think anybody has actually said nice things about me like that. I'm just kidding. But, no, thank you for that, seriously. But NSO was a very good turning point in my life. I didn't see it when I was in it at the time, but now looking back, it's like I'm very grateful for the lessons. It pushed me beyond my. I mean, I knew I could lead, but I didn't know how much I had in me to actually lead a whole organization. That was my first time, you know, participating in something like that. I'm always a follower, a contributor. You know what I'm saying?
Just kind of going with the crowd.
Yes, and it used to be nice for me at that time because it's more of I was very quick to criticize the leaders, like, oh, you're not doing this right, or you need to do this better,
right.
you know. And then when I eventually became in the role, yeah, that was a different ball game.
So it's kind of like you don't know what you don't know until you're there.
Until you're there,
right.
You know. And it's not just you. You're leading other people, and I learned, you know, in my role there as the president of NSO, I learned to not just be a leader but also a follower. So I was doing both roles at the same time. So it was more of, okay, how about we do this? It was a we movement instead of do this, do that, do that.
Right.
I mean, at first, sometimes I think it's to, okay, that was my motive, but there were times where it felt like, at least from the feedback I got from my team, it felt like I was telling them what to do. Right. So that was also a learning process for me because I was like, oh, I was thinking this was how I was doing it, but I guess the people that are on the receiving end are telling me, no, this is how it is. So I had to make adjustments, you know, learning to accommodate other people's feelings, learning to do the work, learning to push myself and see how much I could actually bring to the table was a lot of lessons I actually learned when I was, you know, the president of NSO. And I really, really have the organization to thank for that. And NSO is not your typical academic, like, you know, kind of organization. It was more of cultural. So there were all, and I come from a country where we have a lot of cultures and a lot of tribes. So sometimes you have people say, oh no, this is not how we did it, this is not how we do it where I come from. This is not, you know, that kind of different opinions. Sometimes it clashes, but as a leader, you have to not just learn to stand your ground, but also learn to accommodate other people's opinions.
So how did you manage to do that? Because like you mentioned, before you were in the leadership role, you were kind of, you know, the criticizer. So when you get put into that leadership role, like how did you manage, like, you know, all the other criticisms? Or like, yeah, let's go.
I had to learn to, like I said, play different roles at the same time. So when I'm making a decision as a leader, I always put myself as somebody listening to my own advice. It's really weird, but most times I always try to be like, okay, this decision I did, if I were in your shoes, how would that apply to me? How would I see it? You know, and I also say I'm very grateful for my team, regardless of our disagreements. We got to a point where we had to learn to agree to disagree. So if I tell them what to do, I had people tell me, no, it doesn't come off that way. You know, at first I was looking at it as, oh, you're opposing me, I'm the leader, you know, that kind of thing. But later I had to see it from their own point of view. So that was basically how I started making my decisions from then on. So it's not just seeing it as a leader, but it was also making decisions based on how they gave me feedback.
So it's more like a group effort.
It was a group effort. There were times where, I wouldn't lie, I had to stand my ground and make actually it was one time, if I'm being honest, one time, and that was because I had to weigh the options, and the people involved, obviously, they would say, yes, we want this, but it wasn't favorable at the moment, you know, so I had to make an independent decision. This time I'm making the decision as a leader and not just because the group, in some major aspects, you know, it's a group effort, but there were some times where, or that one time I had to make a decision as a leader, as an independent, because it was affecting them in the group. The decision was about them. Right. You know what I mean?
So somebody made it more personal of them.
Yes. So I had to take an individual decision and be like, you know what, this is what we're going to do. I know you don't like it, but it's the best for NSO at this point. Right. They didn't like it, obviously, but after some time, we kind of got through it. And it even got to a point that I also, as a leader, I also had to learn how to say sorry. I had to learn how to say, you're right, even when in my head I was like, you are absolutely wrong. You know what I'm saying? But I had to learn how to make peace, in some instances, because I just had to also learn the fact that I will not always be right, because I'm a
Right.
human being, and this is a learning process for all of us, so I don't know, it's a lot of lessons that normally they won't teach you this in class, but dealing with people, it's a skill that you could learn and you could take towards your future endeavors or whatever you want to do at your workplace, in your family. If you plan on having a family in the future, how to relate with people is a very good skill to have.
I found that in the past when I was in a leadership role, I often find myself in those situations. Very similar to yours, where it's like I kind of have to kill my own ego.
My own ego.
Where it's just like,
right?
you're just like, I'm right, and I want
know.
it this way, but just kind of like, okay,
like, you know what, you're right. For the love of God, you're right. It's fine. It's okay. Or how about we do this? Or how about you meet me halfway? And I also learned my strength as a leader. I learned what type of leader I was, because at first I was flying blindly, right? I will not lie, I was like this. I'm very independent in a way. Like, I like to do things according to how my strength, carries. But learning that I had to work with other people to make it work, I had to also kind of accommodate and adjust and let myself be a little bit, I'm the kind of person that I don't like losing control. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, because that's how I keep my life organized, And if I put my mind to do something, I don't like people messing it up for me. So I do it according to the way I want it done, right? So, but being a leader, I also learned that even though NSO was like my baby project at the time, it involved other people. So it had to be a group effort. So with time, I found myself adjusting and accommodating. And even when half the time I didn't like the decisions, I had to meet them halfway. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was that thing about compromise, and it worked out eventually.
So what were some of like the challenging criticisms that you received when you started building the organization from the ground up again?
Yeah, so the very first thing I heard somebody say to me was, "This is not a military regime." I'll never forget that statement. When she said, "This is not a military regime," I was like, what? And it hurt me in a way, to be honest, because I thought I didn't want to be that person. I didn't want to be that person that gave orders and wasn't following it. And even to tomorrow, a part of my head feels she was wrong for that statement, because it was more like, I tell you guys to please do this according to your roles. I set everything up. I tried my best to make it as easy as possible. I tried defining it in files just so you know what you're supposed to do. And when you don't do the work, I do the work. And then all of a sudden you start telling me it's a military regime. It didn't make sense to me.
Right.
But then I got to, and apparently the concern, as weird as this could be, was, oh, could you give us half of the work? Give us the work to do. This is not a military regime. You cannot just tell us what to do and then at the end of the day you do it. And that's because in my head, like I said, I don't like losing control. I need things done at a particular time. And if I keep pushing and you don't get it done, I just end up doing it anyway. But then I had to learn to let things go sometimes, maybe put more pressure on them to do their own work and not worry about them not doing it, if that makes sense. It's like there's just so much you could do as a leader. You can't do everything at once, because
so it's like letting go of the control.
Let it go a little bit. Just let it go. And because that's also their own learning process. You know what I mean? And nobody has it all figured out. But like I said, it's a learning process. You have to let some sort of control go a little bit and then watch them. That's where your leadership instincts come in. So if you're doing the work that they are also supposed to be doing, then you're not helping them in a way.
Right.
And I get that even though it's a voluntary position, you have to improvise as a leader. You have to find other ways to make it fun for them to want to do their job. That was something I also had to learn. And this was a lot of learning, a lot of lessons. Midway, almost towards the end, there was a time I felt it was too much. I didn't want to do it anymore. Shout out to Olamide, she's the president right now. And I remember her telling me, you can't leave us here. You need to do it. And the funny thing was, I wanted to give up, but then at the same time, I didn't want to give up because I was like, I've come this far, so I don't know why. But then I think I needed that talk. I needed somebody to push me in a way to be like, no, get up and do the work. You're almost there, right? And that was what she did. She came through for me and, I just kept pushing. But when I heard that thing about, oh, this is not a military regime, I felt really bad because I was like, I didn't want to be that leader that tell you what to do. It's more of do as I say, but don't do as I do. I didn't want it to be like that,
right.
right? But then I missed the anger, I missed the frustration. I had to look past that and hear what she was saying. Right? Take a step back and be like, okay, maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I can't say, because obviously I can't see myself doing stuff, but maybe I'm doing it wrong, or maybe I'm coming out of the way, I don't think I'm coming off as well. I will just go back to the drawing board and figure out how to make this thing work. And that was what happened.
Right. I love how you said earlier how, sometimes you have to take a step back because you have to realize that it's also a learning opportunity for them.
Yes, and for them too.
Right. So it's both of you. So it's almost like if you step in, you're kind of taking a learning opportunity away from them.
Yes.
So, and I know another challenge, and I love it when you talk about this, that a few of your members, they were kind of against you and your board because you were a board that was full of women.
Women, yes, please. I had some people tell me, and the funny thing is, they come in a very subtle way. They've said it to my face, but like they don't say it in like an aggressive manner. It comes in like jokes, or it comes in like, what can you people do? You guys are all women, that kind of talk. And it's like, no, I'll prove you wrong. We're human beings too. We could do a lot of things. And I remember, during our meetings, sometimes I've actually hinted this before, and I've also told them, like, girls, let's do this. We can actually do this.
Yes.
I was so proud to lead a board of 10 women, different backgrounds.
Yes.
Some of us didn't know what the heck we're doing, but I'm so proud that we were able to learn together, we were able to grow together. And like I said before, this is not without a doubt like having disagreements or wanting to legit kill each other. I will not lie to you. Up until Nigerian Night, the big event, I remember I think I wasn't talking to one of my board members, and she was to be she was supposed to assume a role in the this year. And in my head, I'm like, I was mad at her, but I was like, only if you knew. I'm prepping you. I see a lot of potential in you. Like, how dare you, And it was more of personal in a way, when people just come off as disrespectful, even when they don't know. And I had to bury that to not just get the work done, but to also understand the fact that, this is leadership. Because you might be, if you get in a workplace tomorrow, you might see somebody else that's, maybe you're younger than the person, or the person is older than you, or you are older than the person. But maybe because of their role and you guys share the same space or within the same proximity, like there might be that thing where the person comes as disrespectful. How do you handle that situation? Right. So every time I was thrown a curveball, I always take it and be like, okay, what direction? It's not always easy, because the first time that thing hits me, I'm like, but then later I'm like, you know what, I'll just, throw it any way. I have control of it right now. And that's how I was able to deal with some of the situations, with people. We had some people that were freshmen on the group. We had, those that were master's students, but I had to learn to work with everyone, regardless of where we were. I wanted to flip out. In fact, there were times where I will not lie to you, Tony. Okay, so there were times, sorry, I get really passionate when I talk about this. There were times where, when you're texting in a group, some people come out as rude when they might not be rude. That's the way they are. I had to learn that too.
Yeah.
Because there are sometimes I'm like, no, she didn't. What? No, she didn't just say that. But then later I'm like, you know what, read that message again. So I read it again and I'm like, you know what, okay, fine. I'll just reply as sensible as anybody could, because messages tend to be misinterpreted when you read them than when you actually say them. And there are times where I know this is what this person meant. This person is rude. This person is very, very disrespectful. If you were near me, I would punch you. But then I would either bite my pillow, true story, bite my pillow, or scream in my room, right? Take like 2 minutes, ignore my phone, because I just see it buzzing, because everybody's typing. Ignore my phone for like 2 minutes, and then just think and be like, what exactly do I want to say back to these people? I have to legit step away to recollect my thoughts, just so I cannot say, so just so I don't say what I can't take back.
Right.
Do you understand? As a leader too, I also had to learn that. And another thing too was with my group of women, I had to tell them, we are all leaders regardless of what you think you are. Do you understand what I'm saying? You have to, I'm not training you to just assert or to hold the position on the NSO board. I'm actually training you to be leaders.
Right.
I remember saying that several times, and I'm like, we need to take this seriously. There was this one boy we tried, I don't know, I think I told you the story the last time too. We tried bringing him on the board, and we were, there was a time we were trying to tell him, it's a perk. You'll be the only boy. I mean, you get to make most of the decisions. You could even be the one breaking the ties for us. But then it didn't work out with him. I won't even go into details. And then it just hit me. I was like, we can actually do this. Like, it doesn't stop us from doing the work. We could do the work twice as good, as any other. I mean, it would be nice for us to have mixed sexes, but still, this is all we have. And I'm going to make the best of what we have, and it will start from me, it will start from what I can do. And it will start from what I could, tell other people. So, yeah, that was it.
Wow, that is so powerful.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into our interview with Favour. She is just so amazing. As mentioned before at the beginning of the video, we do have a first interview with Favour that will be posted up on a later date. But again, please be aware that there are some noise disturbances and it may be a little bit challenging to listen to the entire interview, and that's why we decided to re-record or do a second interview. So some of the things that we've talked about may overlap. So did you learn anything from our interview with Favour during this portion? The full interview will also be posted at a later date. Just keep that in mind. If you did learn something, leave it in the comments below. Remember to leave a thumbs up and remember to subscribe. And also, if you are looking to follow Favour, all of her social media and all of her platforms and her podcasts are listed below. And I will see you next time.